Welcome to our 9th video. We're still looking at the editing tools in the Tools menu in the viewport. And just as some reminders, you can adjust the size of the menus by pulling sideways. In this case, I'm going to enlarge the text. And I do that by holding down Control, pushing middle mouse button. I'm going to do that with the operator menu as well, because we will use that too. And I'm going to go ahead and tab in to edit mode. To do that, just hit tab. You can switch that on the header down at the bottom of the viewport, but you can just hit tab to cycle through. It's a very fast way to do that. I'm going to make sure I'm in vertex mode, which you can see on the taskbar, show you where you are at that moment. I'm going to do Control T to bring up the mesh select mode, and you can select vertex, edge, or face. I'm going to select vertex, of course, as I said. I'm going to select two of these vertices. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and select these vertical ones. It doesn't really matter which ones you select, but you do need, for this next tool to work, you need to select vertices. You're going to scroll down on the Tools menu until I find where it says screw here, and I'm going to click on that. And it's very similar to spin, except for, as you can see, it kind of comes down and makes a loop. If I go into that operations menu, I'm going to bring that up a little bit, and I increase the number of steps, I get more elements as it goes around. I can also tell it the number of turns. You notice that the number of times it goes around in one turn stays the same. That's still at 19. I'm going to change that to 24 just because I want to. And I can increase the number of turns, as many as I want. And so here we have this nice little spiraling cone. If I change the center, that's going to be the center of rotation that it goes around. And so I'm going to move this. And I can even move it the other direction if I want. However I want to adjust those, and I can move it in the y-axis as well. And the further away that center moves from the center, the larger the circle is getting, because that's where my points that I'm spinning are closer. So I'm increasing the radius by doing that. I can also adjust the vertical as I want in the negative or in the positive direction as well. I'm going to right click and say reset all values to default, and there it took me back to what it was before. The axis, this goes from -1 to +1, and so this way you can adjust how you want this to be. Here I have it set right now so it actually inverts a little bit from where that position is. In this case it doesn't anymore, just because of the way I moved it. But that can be kind of a handy tool to try out, see what it does. You could do more complex lines initially that you use the tool with. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to hit Control Z a little bit to undo all of that. And I still have my vertices selected. I'm going to go down to the next tool here, which is the knife tool. And as I take the knife tool and I draw around, right now I'm just holding it down, and it's placing points wherever it crosses an axis. And it just hit Enter to place all those points in there. You can even do it with clicks. So if you click on the knife tool or press K, another way of doing it, you can click and select parts. You'll notice that the lines turn green in this case as I go to over an edge. I can just click on that spot to set it. If you click in the middle, you can go from place to place, but I'm going to hit Escape to cancel the option. I'm going to press K again. Thing is that if I do a section in the middle here and I hit Enter, it still connects it to some vertices. In this case, it grabbed ones that were closest to it. It has to be connected with the edge. You can't just do a hole in the middle and have no geometry that it's connected with using that tool. Similarly is the select one. In this case, what it's referring to, I'm going to switch to face mode here just for a moment. I'm going to select this panel, and then I'm going to click on the select. This is actually a selection tool. What it is it will let you do the knife tool over whatever you select. So I'm going to hold it down, and here it only is connecting with the things that are actually on that plane. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and just draw through here, etc., and we'll hit enter. And so I could draw in relation to the plane, and these points are only active because those edges were part of what I had selected earlier. Knife project is kind of a similar tool to that, and you can use other objects, outlines, and boundaries. It says to project knife cuts. So I haven't played around a lot with this one. I'd encourage you guys to try it out. I might come back and touch on that later, but for right now I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to go down to where it says Bisect. I'm going to switch to Edge mode. Control Tab is a fast way to, again, switch between the mesh select modes. I'm going to select Edge, and I'm going to right click on one of them. Let's say I click on this one. And then I'm going to click on Bisect, and what it'll do is as I move, just a second here, Bisect, and is it not cooperating with me? I might have to do, oh, yes it did, perfect, okay. So every time I click Bisect, it'll actually go and divide that section, and although there it didn't, did it do it on this one? Don't know. It's supposed to divide the things in half. Let's go over to this side where we have a little bit simpler geometry. Actually, I'll just undo a lot of the steps there. There we go. I'm going to go to face select mode, right click here, and click on Bisect again. And now I clicked in here to draw a line, and as I move this line, it'll divide the surface in half. So different behavior than I did before. I think the other behavior might be unintended because I think this is actually the purpose of the tool itself, is to divide a face where you can just move it around and try different things to see what you get. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to set that in case it didn't when I clicked off of it. And I'm going to go and click this face. I'm going to click Bisect again, and then I'm going to click kind of towards the middle. Wherever you click is where it'll spin or adjust from. So that's something also to keep in mind as you go. I'll let go there and hit enter. You'll notice that this dot on the panel moved, and that's because we just added another vertice to that mesh. And I'll go ahead and do A to select all vertices. And so because of that, it adjusted the center of it a little bit this way to weight it towards those vertices. Because here you have two pulling on it in that direction, that upper left direction. So I'm going to go down a little bit to the Remove tool. And again, the delete options, you can get those by hitting D on the keyboard or hitting, not D, hitting X or hitting the delete key. You can also merge points, okay? And there's remove doubles. Remove doubles is really, really handy to, if you're using, like, for instance, the spin tool, and you make a glass or a cup or something like that, you can hit remove doubles to get rid of the overlapping vertices. And it's just a handy way of cleaning up the models that you're making. So I'm going to go ahead and select these 2 points here that I just put in with the Bisect tool. I'm going to click on delete. Actually, I'm going to click on, let's go ahead and do something different. Let's do merge. And I'm going to say, if you do it first, it's the first one that you select. If it's at last, the last one you select. Centered is between them, at cursor, or collapse. Collapse, let's go ahead and hit that. And that worked very much like how I would do if I set at center, but it just took those 2 points out and moved them in and got rid of them entirely. I'm going to do Control Z, and let's see how that differs from if I clicked on at center, in which case those are exactly the same. I think depending on the geometry that might look very different. Okay, so remove doubles, again, great way to kind of clean up those models. We'll go ahead and call that good for our tools in general. We're not going to get into the weight tools or the history, but we might in a later video on that.